Hello, this is Rod White for Mining Network, and we have a most interesting interview coming up because Peter Gadsden, who's the CEO of Mining Network, tasked me recently. He said, "Can you come up with a moonshot?" And I thought this is rather interesting. And a moonshot is how the smallest possible company could possibly be very large. So I looked around and I found Mink Ventures, which is presently it's a $2 million capitalisation company with $1 million in cash, but it's got all the land around. Quite a serious former Falconbridge nickel producer called Montcalm in the Timmins Camp. So I spoke with Natasha Dixon and with Kevin Philo, and they were surprised but rather pleased to be able to do an interview. So first let us start with the CEO. It's Natasha Dixon, who I've met and known. She's Vancouver-based and has a lot of corporate experience. But Natasha, I mean, this is quite a task for such a small company. What was involved with Mink? How did you set it up?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us, Rod. We really appreciate the opportunity. Mink Ventures started in March of 2021. A group of us got together and we're entrepreneurial and opportunists, and we realized sometimes you need to be prepared for opportunity when it comes to you. So we figured we might as well set up a vehicle and have it in the garage full of gas, ready to go. So we started a capital pool company. And what that essentially is you put together your team, you put together the corporate structure, and then you go out and seek for opportunity. And we were able to pull together people like Kevin Philo, Ingrid Hibbard, JC St. Amour, Paul Rokeby, very, very experienced people in the resource industry, working in a number of different areas, put together this team, kept the structure extremely well focused. We have 14.9 million shares outstanding. You mentioned a 2 million market cap. We recently just raised $1 million to help us do some exploration on our acquisition of Montcalm. That in and of itself is a big story, but getting your listing through the TSX Venture is no small feat. Our team had a vision of opportunity to go out and seek for something, and we have been working essentially for sweat equity for the past 18 months.
It's for sweat equity, so you're not using shareholders' money to support your lifestyle.
No, this is definitely not a lifestyle company unless you want to work long days and long nights to make something happen. But we have a belief in the project that we have and in the group that we have that we can put the pieces together to make something extremely successful. And you referenced this is a very small cap company. Everything starts small, but what can you do to take something and make it bigger? And that requires money, people, and the right project. And we were able to acquire an 80% interest in the Montcalm project, really due to a series of relationships that we've had over many years with the current vendor. Kevin Philo and I have worked together off and on for 15 years. We had staked this project in an earlier venture. We're very well versed in the history of the project and the previous work that had been done there. We saw an opportunity with it. We knew what the vendors needed. We knew what we needed. The fact that we had Mink Ventures ready to go as a vehicle enabled this transaction to happen. The fact that the vendors knew us and knew what our capability was as a team was really important to us successfully acquiring the asset. It's a combination of $50,000 in cash, $1.6 million in shares, and $600,000 to be spent in the ground over the next 2 years. And I'll really focus in on that 1.6 million shares because that tells you that the vendor of the property appreciates that we can add value as a group to this asset and bring everybody along. So Voltage and Mink shareholders will benefit from the work that we're going to do on this property.
Yeah, what I would say, let's keep it simple. To make money in the stock market, in mining sector, you need firstly geology, secondly jurisdiction, And thirdly, you need management that can deliver. And in actual fact, you don't normally get that until the companies are 50 million, but you've got that at 2 million. And the reason is actually, with respect, it's Kevin Filo, who I've known nearly 30 years, as being, shall we say, an unconventional, possibly visionary geologist, but very, very pragmatic, because he has the theory that in geology you have to minimise the risk, so he won't go into strange jurisdictions. And what he does is he does a huge amount of work over many years, in particular mining camps, and he picks up the land, or he works with the people that own the land adjacent to and nearby to major mining projects. So you've technically pulled it off by getting the Montcalm project. So what, Kevin, motivated you to take on Montcalm at a time when the nickel prices tripled over the last few years that you've been working on this, and you've still got it home?
We're obviously in the battery metals sector, and as you pointed out, there's a shortage of that particular commodity. One of the most important things I would like to say is use the adage, the best place to look for a mine is beside an old one. And that's particularly the case here. We control 40 square miles around the Montcalm Mine, which was mined by Falconbridge and eventually acquired by Glencore. That mine produced almost 4 million tons of 1.25 nickel.
That's high-grade nickel sulfide.
Nickel sulfide, yes. 1.25 nickel, 0.67 cobalt, and 0.67 copper, and roughly a pound of cobalt to the ton, which is very significant these days. I would also like to say that before I get into the geology aspect, why we like this project is with respect to infrastructure. There's an all-weather road from Timmins, 65 kilometers to the mine site. That road happens to be accessible all year round because it's plowed, because the mine is basically on a care and maintenance situation. So this type of situation allows us to have very, very cheap, cost-effective exploration.
You don't need helicopters.
We don't need helicopters, exactly. In this project, we can drill in Timmins all in roughly between $225 and $250 Canadian.
Half the price of Nunavut.
Yes, and if you were in an isolated area in Canada, you might pay $400 a meter for drilling alone, never mind all the other stuff, helicopters, assays, and so on and so forth. So again, I'd like to reiterate, extremely cost-effective exploration. The other thing is, Timmins has a number of milling facilities for ore. In the event of a significant discovery, the capex on a project like this would be obviously much less if you had to toll mill the ore. You'd basically haul it to Timmins.
Now, you got a railhead on the property which takes you straight to Sudbury.
It's close by, but it would probably better to haul the ore to Timmins and put it on the railhead to Sudbury, the concentrate on the railhead to Sudbury from there. But suffice to say, we have very, very good access to facilities, milling, railheads, so on and so forth.
Yeah, but tell me a bit about the Montcalm mine and what it's got.
Would you like to speak about, you want some history on the mine or our properties?
Just to explain that you're right adjacent to what would have to be in nickel terms a world-class project.
Well, the Montcalm mine was a smaller mine. It was originally discovered by Mr. Norman Keevil Sr.'s group of geologists in the 70s. They discovered about 2 million tons of ore.
Yeah.
Sat dormant for about 20 years till Outokumpu Oy of Finland showed up on the scene, and they found another 5 million tons probably within 18 months to 24 months. And the mine went into production shortly after that. Since about 2009, the mine has been shut down. There was an incident regarding the crown pillar, and it currently has a resource remaining of about 1.1 million tons remaining. On our particular project.
Well, you got the land adjacent and pretty much halfway around the Montcalm project. I mean, effectively, it's sulfides, and it's all going to be very similar. It's not going to change just because you're 1 kilometre over the border, is it?
This is not a closeology deal by any means. We actually have the Gabriel Loba, about 10 square kilometers of the Gabriel Loba on our property, which actually hosts the Montcalm Mine. And we have some pretty prospective geology aside from the main Gabriel Loba. There's also a lot of new things happening in the world of geophysics. There's been a number of exploration groups over the years that have explored this property, and we're actually benefiting from their past exploration expertise. They made some mistakes and did some good things as well, but we get to benefit from that. One of the latest and greatest things that we're using, and this is why we think we can do things better, we're steering away from EM surveys and using induced polarization or resistivity surveys, including a new state-of-the-art borehole IP or resistivity. This particular type of survey, you can utilize old boreholes, which we have many from previous operators, and we can run this borehole IP down the historical drill holes, look 250-meter radius around the boreholes and a significant distance below. At the mine, some of the deeper zones of mineralization are below 200 meters, and many of the old systems wouldn't detect this kind of thing. And also, as well, there is disseminated mineralization known at the mine site. And this disseminated mineralization wouldn't necessarily be picked up by EM systems. So when we run this borehole IP, we can look for both massive sulfides, disseminated sulfides, and at greater depths than other systems.
Well, it's 30 years since all the work was done on the mine, but you've got the access next door on your ground to historic drill holes. You've also got a lot of data and information on the project. So this is not like a startup. It's green field, but it's adjacent to a former mine in an ideal jurisdiction with government support and all the infrastructure you need. So all you really need to do is to come up in your initial exploration programs, which are pre-funded. You need to come up with justification for what you were just saying to the listeners now. And when you've done that, then it's going to be very exciting because you've got a real project which requires a real drill program.
Well, I'm quite convinced that this new borehole IP we're using is going to come up with a number of significant anomalies. One of the reasons, as I spoke to before, previous operators missed a lot of legitimate EM targets. They did not explain the cause of these targets with the previous boreholes. And where we're running these systems, we anticipate that we will easily detect these systems that were EM targets that were missed, plus any consequential disseminated mineralization. So yeah. I'm quite confident that we'll have numerous drill hole targets after we finish these programs that we're doing.
And well, obviously, you can't really look much further ahead than that. That's as much guidance as you can give. But I would say that nickel at the moment is a commodity that investors are having great difficulty getting positioned in. The nickel price is up 3 times over the last 5 or 6 years, so the economics of new mines is quite different. The cobalt price is up even more, and nickel cobalt is as good as you can get. But in the last 6 months, there's been about 3 takeovers in the nickel space. of projects that have been advanced and have come up with resources. You know, Western Areas got taken over by IGO, Oz Minerals in Australia got taken over by BHP, and Wyloo made a takeover of the Canadian operation Noront. So this is something down the road which is rather interesting. But in my direct experience, Canada Nickel, about 5 years ago, they got the ground all around Kidd Creek, which is about, 30 or 40 kilometres away from you in Ontario, isn't it?
Yes. Well, yeah, as the crow flies, about 40 kilometers. And as you're well aware, there's quite a pulse in nickel in Timmins. And if you had to acquire the Montcalm property today beside a former mine, that would have been near impossible to do. But so we were very fortunate to acquire this project.
You've been working with the people for 5 years, so it's more than fortunate. It's designed that you're in it together. But what I was saying is that Canada Nickel is now a 220 million capitalisation company, and you're a 2 million capitalisation company. Wouldn't it be great if you came up with the justification for developing a resource?
That's the intent of the entire project. The Montcalm area, the mine itself is more a higher grade nickel sulfide deposit. So there's somewhat slightly different from a geological perspective. But if you want an analogy to these types of deposits, you can look at Sherritt Gordon's Lynn Lake A mine, which produced or had a resource of roughly 28 million tons in about 15 different deposits in a gabbro host, such as the one at Montcalm. So the upside potential in these types of gabbro hosts are very good if you take Lynn Lake as an analogy.
Yeah, well, the point really is that you've got the concept, your initial program's going to give proof of concept, and then you're in a different game and you're a totally different valuation. You won't have any problem raising the money to advance the exploration. There will not be, with nickel projects, it's going to take quite a while before nickel projects can come through to production. Technically, with your infrastructure and the adjacent Montcalm complex presently just sitting there are intriguing possibilities in the road ahead.
Absolutely. One success builds on another, and I think we're going to have an excellent shot at finding some nickel. I mean, this is Mother Nature doesn't generally make one deposit in one area, so yeah. The odds are in our favor, I would say.
Yeah, but interestingly, Kevin, if you suddenly became a seriously rich man, you're not going to go out and buy a Ferrari and chase flash women, are you? You're in Timmins.
I guess most of your viewers don't really have a perspective where I live. I mean, it's sort of like living in the Canadian Arctic here with 3 feet of snow around me. And we don't drive Ferraris here.
No, it's just a wind-up, but it's pretty obvious to viewers that I have known Natasha and Kevin for many years, and I really want Mink to be a success. And Peter asked for a moonshot, so this is my moonshot. We've now got a video, and on success, you might get another video. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll be closely in touch.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.